If you price your gym wrong, your business is screwed. It's the thing that's going to keep lots of gyms from ever making money, ever spitting out what the gym owner wants to have it spit out for them. They're basically destroying their business. You can literally get your gym completely full and still be losing money. Your clients do not care about coach to client ratio. What they care about is how you make them feel.
Welcome to the Gym Member Machine Podcast.
Beautiful people, welcome to the Gym Member Machine Podcast. So today we're discussing pricing your services at your gym. We've seen a lot of gym owners price their membership by looking at what the gym down the street charges, charging maybe a little less, maybe a little more. And today we're going to talk about why you should consider maybe not doing it that way and what to do instead so you know how to price your gym to actually make money. So, GR, let's start with, what do gym owners get wrong about pricing?
I'm not going to start with that. I'm going to start with, it's the biggest problem that we see in lots of gyms, and it's the thing that's going to keep lots of gyms from ever making money, ever spitting out what the gym owner wants to have it spit out for them. And they're basically destroying their business. Sometimes a fast, painful death, other times slow and painful, but 100% of the time it is painful. So there's your hook, ladies and gentlemen. If you price your gym wrong, your business is screwed. This episode is to help you guys not do that.
So let me ask it this way. What are some of the ways that you've seen people go about pricing that might make intuitive sense, but maybe aren't the right way to go about it?
Yeah, so there's three kind of most common ways that we see gyms price their model. Two of them you can kind of blend together. There's peek in the urinal, is what I like to call it, right? Anyone who's never been in a men's bathroom can understand the concept. You walk up to the urinal, you pull a big Dave, and you make a look over at what the other guy's packing and playing with on the side, and you say, gosh, like, depending on my confidence level, I'm going to price myself a little above, a little below, or right the same as what the competition is doing in the area. And the issue with that is the gym industry, while I think it's getting more sophisticated and has gotten more sophisticated over time, is still by and large an industry of a lot of blind leading the blind. And what I mean by that is, again, we can go back 15 years and find the maybe more prevalent occurrences of this going on. But here's a typical pattern, right? We did not get into, many gym owners, I certainly didn't get into the gym business because I had an accounting background and thought it would be a sound investment, or I had an MBA and was like, this is definitely the best way, the most efficient way to make money. No, we get into it because we love fitness, we love strength conditioning, we had success with fitness in the past, and we want to share that with the world, help other people experience the impacts that fitness, strength conditioning, what have you, has had on our lives. Sometimes selfishly, you say, oh, I really enjoy this fitness stuff. I want to see if I can make a living doing this fitness stuff because that sounds like a cool idea. Great. So you have a ton of gym owners that get into the business via that angle, that path, that mechanism, whatever we want to call it, but we don't have a business background. And so we start by guessing and looking at what other people in the area are doing, or you do the second mechanism, which is literally just a guess, where you say, I think I'm going to charge this. And again, you can be right with any of these three options. You have a really high probability of being wrong. And so you make your guess, you set your prices, and hopefully it works out. Oftentimes it doesn't. What happens is when you don't price yourself effectively, you are putting yourself into a job that is probably going to consistently, number one, lose money for you, but number two, never give you the opportunity to move yourself off the floor, move into that freedom. That is a big portion of why many of us became entrepreneurs in the first place, right? We want to have that flexibility. We don't want to have a boss. We want to be able to make money while we're not there. We want to do what we want to do. And the only way to do that is to be able to have money to pay people to do the things that we don't want to do. And so what happens, we're not priced appropriately, and we say, okay, I'm going to hire somebody. But because we're not priced appropriately, you can't really afford to pay people a living wage when you first make your hire. And so you end up underpaying these individuals. They get to where they're working lots of hours because when your coaches first get into it, they're like, oh my gosh, I can move from this really annoying, low paying job or moderate paying job to this thing that I really enjoy and I love it and it's made an impact on me. I'm going to get into it. And then you figure out you can't live on X dollars per hour, and you start to get, oh man, I've been here for a while and I want to get a raise and whatever else. And the gym owner doesn't have the finances to be able to give you a raise. And so you're like, screw this as the trainer. I'm going to go open my own thing. And then what does that trainer go do? Right? It is the vicious cycle that repeats itself. They're like, well, I'm gonna charge a little bit less because I wasn't the original owner. And then I'm going to get a bunch of clients. And then we get to the point where I'm working all the time, not making any money. And I need to get myself off the floor to do stuff to actually like grow the business. But I don't have money. So I'm going to hire somebody. And guess how you're going to hire somebody? You're going to hire somebody with like a membership trade at first. And you're going to need more hours. And you're going to pay them. And you're going to underpay them. And then guess what that person's going to do? The exact same thing that you did. And they're going to open their own gym and do the same shit over and over until somebody breaks the cycle of black hole priced and actually prices a model effectively. And then that person is going to end up taking over the freaking market because they're going to have all the best coaches. They're going to be making the most money. They can spend more to acquire clients, et cetera, et cetera. That's the story.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. That's what happens. The third way, real quick, is the guru guess. And that is sometimes informed, but it's still just a guess. So if you are talking to a guru, if you hear me tell you, hey, you need to be charging, you're doing small group personal training, you need to be charging $350 a month. That may be right, but that also has a relatively high probability of being wrong. It's the only way to effectively price your services and intelligently price your services is to price them based off of your business model. You cannot guess at pricing. It is arguably the most important decision you're going to make as a gym owner.
I had never actually considered the insight about the generational vicious cycle of having poor pricing, not being able to pay coaches. They do the same thing. So I like the idea of we're going to teach our lovely gym owners listening how to break that cycle of not making enough money and creating generational wealth, the ability to make as much money as a doctor while wearing sweatpants.
The other crazy thing about that is these are creating their evil supervillain origin stories. So I know a guy.
More about that.
I was very familiar. I was really familiar with this business model in this business of a guy that was like, he was a guru back in the day to a certain extent. And I learned a lot from him. Like I genuinely love the person. I think he's only tried to do the best for the industry. Like his heart is always in the right place. But he had a person that was working for him and started off in college as an intern, really obsessed with this guy and this product, just like wanted to be there. But the employee at the time was losing money on his commute. So he actually worked out the math. He's like, what, man, when I account for gas and everything else, you're paying me to come coach these sessions, but I'm literally losing money. I would love to grow XYZ brand with you, but you're not paying me enough to be able to do this. Like, I'm growing up, right? That's what happens in the training business. People grow up and they want to have families and they want to get girlfriends, and girlfriends are expensive and boyfriends are expensive and whatever the hell they want to do. Like, life is expensive. So this guy went off on his own. And I don't want to give it away too hard, but let's just say like this person completely took over a very competitive market with multiple locations. And you think about this, like if you're looking back and you're that guru at the time, are you just thinking like, man, if I would have just been able to figure out how to compensate this individual and create a vision for the business that my employees' individual vision sat inside of, like imagine where the business would be now. But because they weren't priced appropriately or they weren't willing to pay well or whatever it was, you've just created your own evil supervillain, right? You've created a person that's going to be like, they think about you at night. These are like young, vicious trainers that say, all right, you didn't pay me. You didn't see what I was worth. Like, I'm going to open a gym and take you down. And it just repeats itself over and over and over. It's crazy.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying now. Wow. Yeah. That's another, I had never even considered that. At first I thought you were saying they're like creating their origin story to one day become a, supervillain guru. But okay, you're saying because of because of their pricing
you are the
issue,
origin of the evil. It's like Iron Man 1, dude. It's like, what, right? Like the guy was like, oh, Tony Stark, like didn't take my idea. Like you literally became your evil supervillain's origin story. Like you were the source of the biggest thorn in your side because you didn't figure this out from the beginning.
Got it. I love it.
Yeah.
So quick recap, the three ways that we most often see people do pricing: peek in the urinal, just copying a competitor, going by gut feel. I think 200, $300 sounds
Mhm.
fair. Okay, well, fair doesn't pay rent. Or making a guru guess. Okay, GR,
Yeah,
Hormozy,
you
other
get on a
guru just
5-minute
tells
call
you.
with a yes, a GR, like insert anyone here. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if it's me and I think I'm really smart at this stuff, okay? Like I'm hyper biased. My mom thinks I'm the best. If I just tell you what you should be charging without looking at the actual numbers behind the business and the numbers behind your model, it's still likely to be, I shouldn't say likely to be wrong. I'm pretty good at guessing now. Most people aren't looking at the numbers this way, so you have an even higher probability of being wrong if you don't guess. Like this is so important. You want to make sure you check your work before you go off and roll this out into the marketplace. What ends up happening to gyms is they don't price they don't price themselves well enough. And yeah, you have the payroll issues and whatever else, but you also are what we call black hole priced. So I did my first talk on like black hole pricing, something like 12 years ago. This is my jam. So black hole price is a situation where you are priced in such a way where the amount of money that you need to make on a per session basis makes it impossible for you to turn a profit and hit your financial goals based on your number of sessions that you're running, the per session capacity, the expense structure, and your pricing structure. And so there's a world, and we used to see this more often. It's less common now, but it's still common enough for us to need to talk about it, right? If our goal is to help gym owners make doctor money in sweatpants, you can fill up if your pricing is wrong, you can literally get your gym completely full and still be losing money. So the way that we try to position ourselves at GMM, like there's a reason the first thing we do, and again, if you're a really advanced gym owner and you're at 50K months and you're already at 25, 30, 35, 40% margin, then we don't have to go through these numbers. Like you figured that part out, that's okay. But for the folks that are starting off with us in that more startup mode, one of the most important things you do when you come in is we're going to look at your model. We're going to actually do this with you and figure out if you're priced appropriately for the when I say model, I mean number of sessions you're offering, your capacity per session. Are you 6-to-1? Are you 8-to-1? What have you? How many people do you have? How many people can you have in a session at a time? If we allow for a given margin of error on attendance, because most gyms aren't going to have every single session on their schedule completely full, right? We want to have that margin of error. And then we look at your pricing, the number of sessions that pricing gets the prospective member, and we're going to base your actual pricing, your correct pricing moving forward based on that math.
So with that in mind, GR, you've got our magical spreadsheet, which is super helpful to see. Some of us can hear and understand the numbers pieces, but
Yeah.
you actually have a very easy to understand spreadsheet we can look at with this.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this, we're going to try to talk through it in a way that you can understand. If I'm being honest, I would probably need a visual aid. So we're going to give you guys a visual aid. We'll drop the link in the show notes later. I don't know what the link's going to be, but we're going to give you the spreadsheet for free so that you can work through it on your own if you don't want to just work with GMM and have us do it all for you. We're locked in. We've got our super fancy spreadsheet pulled up at this point. The first thing you have to do for those of you that are just listening or following along is find what we call your BOE, your base operating expense. So that is the amount of money that you need to make, including your payout to survive every single month to break even. Okay, so that is your base operating expense. It's basically all of the cash that needs to leave the business on a monthly basis in order for you to be at least okay at home. This absolutely includes your owner payout. So when we see folks say, oh, I'm at 50% margin, I'm at 40% margin, I'm at whatever margin, I'm at 20% margin, right? 20% margin is by and large, it's like the healthy measuring stick for any service business. Well, if you're at 20% margin and that doesn't include you paying yourself at all, and you are working in the business actively, you have jobs in the business, you're not at 20% margin. I love you. But if you were going to replace yourself in that business, get yourself off the floor, hire salespeople, hire managers, whatever it is, you're going to have to spend money to get somebody to sit in that seat. And so if you have 20% margins, but you're doing a GM's job, and your margin is whatever, we'll do easy math. We'll say your margin's 10K a month, and that's 20% margin. So you're doing 50K a month gross. I know I'm doing numbers very quickly here. Well, if you would have to hire a trainer and a manager, a part-time trainer and a full-time manager to run the business, your margins, you might be able to get that for like 7, 8K total if you're really lucky for those two positions. You could probably go higher and spend 10K if you really wanted to a month on those two positions. Like, your margins are actually closer to 0%, right? Certainly closer to 0 than they are 20. So we want to start with building our business model, building our pricing structure off of, at minimum, a reasonable amount for you, the gym owner, to take home. We're not in this to be a charity, right? We get in business so we can make a living. And unless you are just sitting on crazy trust fund money, you don't have to make money from your gym, then we need to account for this. So we start with your owner payout and your expenses. What we have on the sheet is just taking your last 3 months and averaging that out. So with this gym, we'll just play with the numbers to make them different. So we've got a gym that is at 25K average expenses for the past 3 months. Okay. And the sheet's going to pour out a super simple average for you. So you don't have to do that math yourself. You're just going to plug in your expenses, including your payout. The sheet is going to spin out an average. The next thing that we added to this sheet is if your income is unsustainable, because let's say you need to make 3K a month at home to be able to help wifey or hubby or whatever with the bills, or just to be able to survive and feed yourself and pay rent and what have you, not go into deep, crazy credit card debt or whatever it is, then we don't want to build your business model off of you pulling in 1K when you need 3K or pulling in 3 when you need 5 or whatever those numbers may be. So if we need to add additional owner compensation for either your goals or for just for you to be able to eat and put food on the table, then we're going to add that here as well. If you don't need to add anything to this, you can just plug in a 0. But let's say this gym owner needs to add 3K a month in additional owner comp to be all right. Okay. Now, a little note on this: if you're going to end up working through the spreadsheet, do not set this as your big, crazy aspirational income goal that you want to be at in a year or 2 years. And I know we'd all love to be, making $1 bajillion in 3 seconds. That's just not how it works. I'm sorry. And so if you're at 1K take home, don't add 9K in additional owner comp here, right? There's kind of levels and steps to this stuff. You want to start with something that's a little bit more reasonable. So for this example, we're going to add 3K in additional owner comp. For those keeping track, we were at 25K average expenses. We said we needed to add 3 to be okay at home. Now we're at 28K as our new target on a monthly basis to be able to pay ourselves what we need and cover all of our expenses, right? The next thing that we're going to do is move down the sheet, and the number that we're trying to come up with is basically our cost per session. So, or what we need to make per session in order to hit that BOE target, again, including your owner compensation. The easiest way to get that number is to take your weekly sessions and multiply that by 4.333, right? So if you're doing 8 sessions a week, we're going to multiply that number by 4.333 and come up with whatever that math ends up as. The important point here is that you are tracking every single session type, every single scheduling spot on your schedule, every session that is scheduled, not the capacity per session here. So if you're running 8 sessions a day, 40 sessions a week, and your capacity is 6 people per session, you're not plugging in 240, you're plugging in 40. If you've got multiple types of sessions that you're running, a personal training session counts as 1, a small group personal training session counts as 1, a large group personal training session counts as 1. So for the purposes of this sheet, we're going to play with 44 sessions a week, right? So that can be a handful of sessions a day. Let's call it 8 sessions a day and 4 on Saturday or something. And maybe we'll bring this number down just for fun, just to show what it does to the rest of the math. And there we go. So we're running 40 sessions. Our sheet will automatically calculate, multiply that number by 4.333. We do that just because it's easier to count your weekly sessions, easier to count those sessions than it is to count your monthly sessions. And then we come up with a per session break even number. In this case, it's $161. So when you divide 28K by 173 monthly sessions, we get $161. Next thing we're going to do, because again, this isn't a charity and we need the business to make money, right? We want it to turn a profit. We're going to add in a target profit margin. Our recommendation here is a minimum of 20, probably a maximum of 40. Realistically, for most gyms, if you're going to try to actually pay your team well and not have crazy turnover with your team, you need to pay your team well. So 40%, I think, is really the cap for a healthy business that has the owner either sitting in an investor seat or just sitting in the GM seat, like the owner's not doing all the jobs. So 40% is a relatively good target. A note here, many of you will not be profitable as you're doing this sheet for the first time. And so if you're at 0 or 5 or 10%, don't set your target to 40, right? If you're below, let's say 15%, set your target at 20. If you're at 15, maybe you can go to 25 and what have you. If you've been at 25, 30% margin, you probably don't need to do this as long as you already have a team underneath you. And if you're thinking about hiring a team, you probably want to add some margin of error because there's going to be additional costs that you have not accounted for yet in your current numbers on this sheet. And so the math here, again, I'd highly recommend just using the sheet because if you're going to do this on your own, it's going to get a little bit complicated. What we need to do is take that per session break even number and we're going to divide that by 1 minus your profit percentage. So if your target profit percentage is 25%, 1 minus 25.25 is 0.75. Our sheet does it all for you, just like freaking download the sheet if this is confusing. But you're going to divide it by 1 minus your profit margin, right? So in this case, we are dividing our per session break-even number of 161.55 by 0.75, which is 1 minus 25%, our target profit margin for this fake business. And we come up with a per session target of $215.40 a session. Okay, so now we know how much we need to make on average every single session, assuming all of the other things that we've plugged into the sheet are true. Next thing we've got to look at is your capacity per session. Now, this is how many people can you handle in a single spot on the schedule. So for this model, we played with 8 people per session. If you're a large group model, you would change things, but we're going to start with 8 people per session. The next thing that we've got to do with that number, because again, for those of you that have been following along at home, most gyms aren't going to get completely full. Even really successful gyms don't typically have every single session on the schedule booked out, wait list. Like you're going to have some sessions that 10:30 a.m. session or the 3 p.m. session, whatever you have on the schedule, some of those are just not going to be full consistently. And so we don't want to build a business model off of what is not a realistic future scenario. So we're going to give ourselves some margin of error here. For small group personal training businesses, I recommend having that at like 66% max. If you're already super healthy and you're like, this has happened before. We've had hyper profitable businesses that come in and they do this shit with me and they're like, dude, I need to have 70% attendance. And am I? And like, no, you're a very mature business. You're already hitting great margins. Most of your sessions are actually close to full. So you're okay. If you're just starting off, you really want to build yourself a margin of error. And I'd basically work these numbers to be a 66% margin of safety for small group, semi-private, et cetera, 50% margin of safety for large group. Why? I think it's less likely for you to get a large group business at 30 people in a session or 20 people in a session consistently as full across the board than it is to get a small group or a semi-private personal training business full. The percentage of attendance in a small group or semi-private facility is just going to be higher on average than a large group facility. Why is that? Well, it's easier to get a 6-to-1 session full than it is to get a 30-to-1 session full. And there's a whole backdrop that we can get into that and why it doesn't typically work for independents, why large group is harder for independents than it is for the franchise models and so on and so forth. But for now, let's just focus on the math. If you're a large group studio, set it at a 50% margin of safety, which means if you can handle 30, we want to be able to make money at 15 people per session on average. If you're a small group business like this one, where we've got a capacity of 8, we're going to take 66% of that number, and that'll give us the target number of people per session. We're going to round, and we round up on all of these to give us 6. All right. So you're like, wait, well, 6/8 is 3/4. That would be, 6. That's not 66%. Well, it ends up being like 5 and change. And so our spreadsheet automatically rounds it up. You don't want to round down. You want to round up. That gives you additional margin of safety. Okay. So using our attendance target margin of safety will give us our actual attendance target number, which is the number that we're going to base our pricing off of. So we're going to take that attendance target with the margin of safety accounted for In this case, it's 6 clients per session on average. And we're going to divide our per session target with the profitability. So in this case, 215 bucks and we'll just say 215 bucks and 40 cents, but 215 bucks. We're going to divide that 215 bucks by 6 people. And that tells us that the minimum amount that we should be charging per session per person, right, is $35.90. So if this was a large group model and we had a capacity of 20 people and we want to have a 50% margin of safety, we'd have to be charging an average of 21 bucks per session to hit our targets. Okay, so the sheet will work with you across the board. We're going to go large group for this. And again, say we need to have 66% margin of safety, which means we are going to divide 215 bucks, which is our profit target per session. It's BOE plus your profit margin. Divide that BOE plus profit margin by the number of people we're basing our model off of, the number of people that we expect to be in every single session, which is 6, and that spits out $35.90 per session that we need to be charging on average. Okay, so if your pricing is not on average at least $35.90 per session, you are essentially pricing yourself into a black hole. At best, you're pricing yourself into suboptimal profit margins, which is something we don't want. And for those of you following along at home, you're like, shit, I might be black hole price. So, well, yeah, the best time to set your pricing appropriately was when you open the business in the first place. The next best time is today, right? And you're not alone in the fact that you have priced yourself suboptimally. I was going to say unintelligently, but you're all intelligent. Like, you're not stupid if you do this by any means. It's just like there's not a fantastic business school for gym owners that are starting off. Like, it just doesn't exist unless you join GMM 30 days free at gymmembermachine.com. Commercial. All right. So don't feel too bad about it. Just fix it, right? So you can actually make money with this thing and keep doing it and keep helping people doing the things that you got into the business to actually do. So moving on with the sheet, we've got our minimum amount we need to charge per session, which is $35.90. Then we've got a spot in here where you can plug in your membership options. So let's say you have a twice a week option. We're going to add a session in there for the non-February months that'll typically have an extra session, in the month. Like, oh, that sounds like eight sessions a month. Well, a lot of times you're going to give them access to 9. So we want to, again, work ourselves off of a margin of safety here. So membership option 1 in this context is going to be 2 times a week, 3 times a week, and maybe an unlimited. I don't like unlimited for small group personal training businesses. That's a thing for a whole nother day, probably. Just, I wouldn't recommend you do it. You run into too many capacity issues. But we've got membership option 1, which is 9 sessions per month. If we multiply 9 sessions per month by that $35.90 per minimum amount that we need to charge per session, we get $323. Okay, so your membership prices should be at least $323 for that membership. Your 3 times a week option, 13 sessions a month, needs to be about $466.70 per month in order to have a more optimally priced situation, right, for your gym. Now, the next thing you can think about here is we want to look at buying decisions. So this is where we get into a little bit of buyer psychology stuff. And so if you're going to charge $323 a session, I'd probably make the argument for a small group personal training gym to go ahead and make that a little bit more expensive. Make that $349 a month. If you're going to charge monthly, you can make it $349 every 28 days, $329 every 28 days. Like, at least if you're in that range, you're okay. On your membership option 2, you might want to, it's at $466 a month. Man, are you going to lose clients going from $466 to $499 on that price point? Probably not. So I'd probably just move my buying decisions up. It's great to be higher. And most gyms, once they get the sales skills that they need, we help people close at these rates all the freaking time, right? We do twice a week live sales coaching at GMM. I'm very biased, but I think we've got the best freaking sales coaching in the industry. We've got all the resources, the scripts, et cetera. Like, we help people close in gyms like these with prices like these all the stinking time. It's not that hard. It's not nearly as hard as we sort of make the story in our heads as we're starting off, because you may be charging $250 a month for your small group. You're like, dude, there's no way I could charge $350. That's impossible. Like, I hear you. I've been there, and you probably can't. Right? Like, 99% sure you can probably do that shit. The other thing I added here is a reference for our dear listeners on the free spreadsheet that we'll give to you somewhere in the show notes. I love billing weekly. I just freaking enjoy the shit out of it. I think it allows you to create really nice contrasting offers. But we went ahead and divided your monthly cost by the weekly equivalent divided by 4.333, which will annualize perfectly to the numbers that you see on the monthly side. And that's where if you wanted to get really, really fancy with it, you could look at buying decisions on those as well. So for me, 74 a week, like I might move that to 79 or 99 a week, right? If we're at 107, 107 is kind of a weird number. You can make the argument to bring that number down if it doesn't kill your margin too hard on the other side. But you could also go up to like a, 109, 129, right? Try to find those more sweet spots, I guess, for your pricing. You can also jump up to the second sheet, which has our pricing analysis. It's going to pull some of the data from the other sheet. So you can see our break even number, same number, 161.55 here. Our goal profit, you will have to plug this in and change it if you want to use it, if you want to mix it up from the first sheet. And then our goal per session is still that same 215 and 40 cents, right? $215.40. And this is where you can plug in your actual pricing and see where you're at. This is a super confusing sheet, admittedly, but let's say you wanted to do we've got 323, 466, 574. So if we do 323, 426, and 574, and we plug in, I shouldn't have done that on this part because it's going to break the weekly billing calculations. So let me just fix this really quickly. Sorry, friends. And we're going to plug it into our monthly option. So we've got spots here for monthly, weekly, and 28-day options. We're going to make that our 9, 13, and 16 sessions a month. My guess is if we plugged in the actual decimal points here, this would end up perfect, I believe. So let me just double check that. Oh, it's 466, not 426. That's a problem. Okay, so now we can see all of these are priced about the same, right? We're just missing the little cents on the very end of the monthly billing pricing that we pulled from the other sheet. And this is not typically the way that you're going to price your gym, right? Typically, you are going to incentivize people to take a decision with your pricing. And so if you wanted to make your most popular membership the 3 times a week, then I'm going to make my 2 times a week membership more expensive relative to the 3 times a week. And I'm going to make the value jump from 3 times a week to unlimited not be nearly as enticing as the value jump from 2 to 3 times a week. It's not going to be as good of a deal. Now, if you want to switch those options around, so if you want to move people into the highest price thing, then you're going to make the value jump from, let's go small, medium, large. You're going to make the value jump from small to medium be really small, and you're going to make the value jump from medium to large be huge, right? If you want to move people into that highest price thing. So let's just play with numbers here, and we'll look at what it would shake out to be. And so we're going to go from 323 and go to 399. Let's see what 349 looks like. And I would absolutely recommend that you guys just play with these prices. So play with the sheet, do some trial and error, exactly like I'm doing here. So if I go 379, that moves us to 42 a session for the 2 times a week membership. I'm going to go to, let's see what 479 does. I know I'm kind of breaking the law of buying decisions. So these kind of work out pretty nicely on this modeling. So we're charging 42, 36.85, and then 36.19 a session respectively for 2, 3, and then 4 times a week. They all allow us to hit our per session targets over on this side. Again, this is a rounding thing. So we need 75% attendance to be able to hit these numbers. But these are pretty close, right? You could absolutely, if we were consulting you and these were your exact numbers and this was your business, we could absolutely go play the game with this type of pricing. And then depending on your service level and your competitive landscape, there's no reason you can't move these prices up as well. And you can play with those numbers too. So let's say you wanted to go $399, $499, $599. Like, great. Now you're building a little bit more margin. The jumps are still exactly what we talked about. Not a huge benefit to jumping to unlimited. We're getting a big benefit for making the jump to 3 times a week. which is exactly what we want. You'd be making 221, 230, and 224 per session if everyone was paying those price points with the amount of attendance necessary to make your nut. And the other thing you'll notice on this sheet is moving that 379 to 399 moved our attendance requirement from 6 people down to 5 people, which is nice, right? Because now you
So it's
need 5/8 attendance on average. You need less people to attend your sessions on average to hit your financial goals, which is a good thing, right? Like that's a nice situation. And I'd make the argument that the buying decision there is not different enough to warrant not making this change for the typical gym owner. And again, we've got on this sheet, we've got spots where you can play with weekly billing, spots where you can play with 28-day billing and monthly billing. So whichever structure you like best, you can plug those into the sheet and see where things shake out for you. I'd recommend you try to find those buying decision type numbers. Then it becomes a matter of, okay, what do you have to do to be able to fix this and have a sustainable gym moving forward? You know, it might mean that you've got to raise the rates on current members, and we'll end up having playbooks and stuff for that we'll share with you guys and processes for that. What I used to do and what we've done at GMM is, man, I try like hell to not raise prices on current folks as much as we can. And so I'll like, if you need to make this price change, raise it on new people. I raise prices on new people all the time. We've got people that have been at GMM for whatever it's been, 6, 7 years now. And guess what, dear listener? They're paying way less. They're paying way less than you would be if you ended up joining on in and staying around today. And so the best time to sign up at GMM was 6, 7 years ago. The next best time is today because prices are likely to go up. And insert commercial here. Right now, we are doing a really super psycho 30 days free offer. There's no bait and switch. You cover the ad spend, you cover the usage of the phone system. If you decide you want to use that, you can also just bring your own number. We don't make any money on the phone system thing. It's just literally a convenience for you. And you can try us, use us and abuse us for 30 days, absolutely free. We'll give you all of our services free for 30 days, banking on the fact that some of you are going to decide to stick around long term. Worst case scenario is you learn some stuff that you can take and use on your own. Best case scenario, you find the growth partner that's going to help you take over the world and create your own little gympire together, like we have for so many other lovely folks in our universe. So commercial over. So I'll stop sharing, but we'll have a video walkthrough on the spreadsheet that we share with you guys so you can plug and play and figure out whether or not you're priced into a black hole or you're priced super intelligently and your guru guests are peeking in the urinal treated you right. Yeah, what questions, Dave, you're the voice of the gym owner. What questions do you think our dear listeners may have?
Let's imagine that instead of the pricing, raising the rates or making a pricing correction, I want to focus a bit on the capacity side of things. Maybe in the past, I've typically had a certain number of people per session, or I've struggled to fill certain times of day. What about clients freaking out if I increase capacity, say from like 4 to 6 or something like that?
Yeah, super good question. So the logical follow up question to that sheet is, wait, I'm black hole price now. What do I do? And there's only a handful of things that you can adjust. So you can try to cut expenses, but most people aren't going to be able to save themselves in the profitability unless you've got really, really just egregious payroll decisions. And I've seen those before. Like I've told people, wait, are you hiring? Like it was actually a doctor in, I think, Wisconsin. He was doing like a gym as a side gig. He was paying a guy, it was like a CrossFit gym. He was paying a guy like 60 or 70 grand. And the only thing the guy did was coach like 3 hours, 3 days a week. And
Best
I'm
gig
like,
ever.
true, absolutely true story. Some of those numbers might not be completely accurate. This has been years ago, but I've literally told the guy, I was like, shit, I might think about moving to Wisconsin. Like I spent 5 years in Minnesota. I hated the Great White North. I'm not a cold person, but is that offer on the table for other people? I'd probably do a better job than this guy. So if you have super egregious payroll stuff, then yeah, you may be able to save yourself into some profitability. That's one of the levers you can pull. The other level you can pull is just add sessions to the schedule, which I don't really like, right? Particularly if you're not profitable and you're not full, then you're just adding hours to the calendar. They're going to either take payroll or time away from you, and they're not likely to fill up quickly, unless you're working with GMM as your marketing partner. Like, that's typically not the best move for lots of folks, unless they're just, oh, I've got a ton of people on the wait list. Our sessions are typically full. Let me systematically add a session or two a month, a session or two to the weekly calendar per month, see how that capacity shakes out or that attendance shakes out. If it goes well, yeah, maybe you add more. But again, that's kind of a less common thing that they're going to be able to adjust. The two variables that gyms can do most often, number one would be raising prices. That's the easiest way to get this done, to actually make the numbers make sense. The other way is exactly what you said, which is adding capacity per session. And so to your point, to your question, the gym owners will say, well, gosh, I'm black hole priced at 6-1, but if I got to 8-1, I'd be right in the sweet spot. But I don't know if my members are going to be like, there's going to be a freaking uprising, if I move the session capacity from 6 to 8. And we've had lots of gym owners do this in the past. And here's the deal. Your clients do not care about coach to client ratio. They just don't. I'm sorry. I will die on that hill. What they care about is how you make them feel. So if your coach to client ratio is 6-1 and you give a shittier service at 8-1, yeah, they're going to care. But it's not the coach to client ratio. It's your inability to coach well at that capacity. If you feel like you can up some session capacity and still serve the hell out of people. This is my favorite compliment I got back at Dungeon Strength Conditioning. Y'all has heard that name 3 episodes. The best compliment I got, old Allison. She was a mom's on the run gal, one of my fave clients. Got her from a Chamber of Commerce event, which is interesting, not paid ads. She said, man, GR, I've got to tell you, it's like, I feel like I get more personal attention here in a group of 20 than I got working with a one-on-one personal trainer at whatever the gym was, probably in LA Fitness or whatever it is. And so your coach client ratio, because we were a large group facility for a long time until we moved into more small group, your coach client ratio doesn't matter. What matters is the attention they feel like they're getting, the quality of coaching they feel like they're getting, the experience that they receive. Yeah, the results they get, but those other 3 things are way more the hell important. And your people just don't care about coach client ratio unless it makes their experience worse, which is your job and your coach's jobs, right, as trainers and coaches, to be able to facilitate that. The next follow-up question to that is, well, how do I do that? How do I announce it? This is another little pro tip. You don't.
You just do it.
You just do it. Here's the argument. And this goes for like, there's lots of variables like this where if you don't make it a big deal, they won't. And if you do make it a thing, you say, hey, we're just FYI, due to scheduling conflicts and issues and an unsustainable business model, we're going to now be allowing 8 people to attend sessions instead of 6. Like, that's not a great way to put it. And even if you did it well, so my mindset on sharing any of these changes that might be taken negatively is to sell the positive. So even if you do it well, and so if you were going to do it and do a mass announcement to everybody, you're going to do something where it's like, hey, just FYI, we've been noticing people on the wait list. We want to make it as convenient as possible for you to get into your training sessions. So we're going to go ahead and move the, whatever, you could just start with the most busy blocks. We're going to move the 6 a.m., 7 a.m., and the 5 and 6 p.m. sessions to have 8 people per session. The best thing there, our coaching team has been working like hell on this. Like, we're 100% confident we're going to deliver you the same experience, quality of coaching with more friends to make in every session. And you're going to have more opportunities to get into those really, really busy hours. Super excited about this. You'll see it on the schedule next week. Even if you did it really well like that, you're still going to open the door for like crazy Kens and Karens to get grumpy about something, because there are some people that just want to get grumpy about stuff. And I fucking hate those people so much, but they exist in the world and they will try to make your world a living hell if you give them any reason to. They're just looking, they're like fucking barnacles looking for any square inch of your business's ship to latch onto to create a negative comment. And man, I really don't want to have to deal with that. And so if you just up the capacity in the sessions, some people might ask questions. Oh, I noticed that the capacity went from 6 to 8. What's up with that? Then you answer it in the exact same way that I gave you on the positive spin. You give them the positive spin on the thing. And my guess is if they come in and they don't have a chance to ask you that question or email you about it or whatever beforehand, and you deliver a banger session, the thought immediately leaves their mind. They're not even considering asking you about it because it's like, oh, well, this is good. Like, you've got the equipment, you've got the space. We didn't change the sessions a bunch. Like, you just had one more person in here, two more people in here, and it's totally great. Same experience, same level of attention, same energy, maybe better because you have a little more people in there. Like, that's awesome. So you're going to squash some of that with your delivery. And if it doesn't have to be an announcement, I'm not going to make it an announcement. Just let the annoyed people email you directly, reach out to you directly, and then handle it in the most positive way possible. And it doesn't have to be a permanent decision. So you may go ahead and try 8-1 or 10-1 or whatever it is and figure out, okay, gosh, this is like too hard. Our coaches can't handle this. And then it's either, well, you got to train up your coaches better, or you can move the capacity back to what it was and try to solve the problem in another way.
And Jerry, you said something important there of like, if you're going to pull on this profit lever, this capacity lever, you will have to prep and do some work on potentially programming, maybe a minor equipment investment. You have to train the team and practice and make sure that the amazing strength training session critical event is still going. But I love that idea that instead of sending the email ahead of time and inviting and almost asking for objections, it's similar to what you talk about with sales, how these folks don't have context to make a decision about this. Similar to how in sales, you need to potentially give someone a trial or to try out what you sell so that they have context to make a decision. Same thing here. If they try out and experience what the 6-1 or an 8-1 feels like, they have more context to actually say, oh, wait, I enjoyed this. This is the same, if not better, like you said. And if anyone needs beliefs broken, there's a gym in New Jersey who's opening multiple locations and doing very well and is growing fast. And he actually said to me the other day that their model went from a 1,500 and they just happened to pop into an 1,100 square foot location. He was like, oh no, it's just not going to work. People are going to be too cramped. They're going to hate it. It's his most favorite energy of all his locations because they are there and you get that's what the gyms we work with are all about, is actual community and having that social connection. So there's sort of an interesting thing about potentially having more people in the same space. It could lead to a positive outcome.
Yeah. And if I was going to do this and I knew I was going to have to make a capacity change and I am surviving while still knowing I need to make this change, right? Like, I'm a solopreneur and I'm okay eating a little bit of a hit financially in the short term. And I want to make sure that the change from X capacity to Y increased capacity goes well. And I know I'm gonna have to make programming changes because, like, look, if you're already in a black hole, like, I don't want you to go buy more equipment if you can avoid it. It's like I'd much rather get creative on programming. So, like, can I rotate people through a station in a different way, or have multiple ABC type mini stations and then have people rotate? Like, I'd rather get creative on how we deliver the session. And then your pro tip would be, do that before you make the capacity change. So try that out for like a month or 2 weeks or whatever it is. Make sure y'all are dialed on that system. And then now when you do make the capacity change, nothing changes, right? It's still the same thing. Like, you're not going to tell people, hey, we're changing the way we're doing programming. It's just like, you change the workout that day when they come in and then give them a great experience with it, right? Make sure there's less dead time, whatever it is. Same thing. You're going to answer questions about it? Probably so. You want to have a good reason. Like, we want to really create training density and make sure y'all are productive with your time, whatever like, sell it as a positive.
We have this kettlebell and physio ball section so that you get integrated knee flexion paired with hip hinge. That's why we did this.
There you go. Like, whatever. It's hashtag science, I guess. So yeah, I would, you could be strategic about how you roll out these things. I would just like to ask for everybody's, sympathy, because I was in the ER this morning and still filmed this shit. Yeah. Yeah. Can I ask for everyone's sympathy? My kids are not going to eat if you don't take your free 30-day trial at GMM at gymmembermachine.com right now. No, I had a friggin' allergic reaction. I woke up feeling easy, feeling fine, and then hadn't eaten anything in the morning. Might have had a little nicotine, but I've had lots of nicotine. It wasn't the nicotine. We're fine with the nicotine. I might have had me a little energy drink. Definitely not the energy drink. I've had hundreds of those over the past handful of years, whatever it is. And my kids left. I'm like, my stomach, my tummy, my tum-tum hurts. And I was associating it with, I just had to get my gallbladder out. I know, guys, I look jacked. Just in case you're wondering, natty for life so far. I know that's I'm gonna be on all the like natty or not stuff now. But had to get my gallbladder out last month. So my stomach's hurting, probably a gallbladder thing, whatever. And then I'm getting ready to get in the shower. So why are my armpits itchy? It's like, did I leave my deodorant on too long? See like a little rash. Guys, by the time I get out of the shower, my hairy ass back is covered in hives. I look like a freaking chicken poxed kindergartner. My stomach is in writhing, ridiculous pain. My wife takes a picture of my back, sends it to ChatGPT, says, "What should we do?" And then she says, "Well, he's having stomach pains. You should definitely take him to the ER." It's like, I'm here with you. I do not want to be overly dramatic. Like, I'm here with you. We're calm. We're good. But you should definitely get admitted. And yeah, I had to have freaking epinephrine and a Benadryl IV and all this shit. And we don't know what it is. But I may need your sympathy and prayers if it's whey protein, because I think it's whey protein. I've only ever had one reaction like this, and I was 21. That's lots of years ago. That's a driving human. That's a legally driving human ago. Yeah, when I was still playing frickin' college ball. And I went in the training room, my face looked like Lou Ferrigno, just all swollen up and everything else. We still don't know what that thing was, and I've had hundreds of whey protein servings since. But supposedly ChatGPT says it's quite normal for adults to develop a whey protein allergy or develop any allergy as they get older. And so I would like all of our fitness friends to send their T's and P's, their thoughts
Yeah,
and prayers and
send their
sacrifices to the kettlebell gods.
send their thoughts and prayers and their pea protein isolate.
Yeah. So don't you need rice for it to be a complete? And doesn't it have to be like a combination of pea and rice protein for vegan to be the move? I did vegan
I
protein for a
don't
while. It just
know.
tastes like chalky grass.
Yeah, I know so far you've checked off scallops and whey protein. What's next? Chicken breast? You're running out of
I
protein
know.
sources here. You're going to have to
I
switch
know.
to tofu.
I know. It's ridiculous. But hopefully
All right.
y'all enjoyed the episode in spite of my medical maladies. Maladies? That's a word I've only ever read and never said out loud. So hashtag vocabulary.
Yep.
So hit the show notes, friends.
Yes, we will leave a link in the show notes to the pricing spreadsheet. And if you have any questions or feedback or topics you'd like us to cover, we would love, I am dying to get an email at dave@gymmachine.com. It'll be in the slide and pop up a few seconds after this. So thanks for listening. Thanks for lending us your ears, and we'll see you next time.
Love, hugs, like, subscribe. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye.